rain this morning, little bit of wind, nothing now, nothing to worry about. Looking good for a launch.
Starship development is moving quickly here at Starbase. So fast, in fact, that we already are reflying the Super Heavy booster today, which last flew on Flight 7. The primary objectives for today are very similar to our last two attempts, except for the booster, which, in addition to flying for the second time, has an exciting return journey planned for its return back to Earth.
That's right. It's going to be getting some serious rigor, and pretty important, we are not going to be attempting to catch the booster today. We're going to use this launch to kind of further accelerate the development. We're putting Super
They're probably
Heavy
doing
kind
a
of through the
splashdown.
ringer, some serious rigor. We're going to go through all of that in just a couple of minutes. We're also hoping to get Ship into space, and it's got a couple of objectives like deploying simulated Starlink satellites and then a range of experiments during its re-entry. We're really trying to test the limits, the capabilities of that heat shield.
If this doesn't survive, this probably this won't this will be the third in orbit failure.
A very big day for both stages. There's always a chance we don't reach every objective that we set for ourselves, but success comes from what we learn on days like today. And of course, whatever happens, excitement is guaranteed.
Yeah, that's right. Progress is
if it does, then that means they probably have a new engine
overall
in
is
their
and
system.
getting us closer to establishing self-sustaining civilization on Mars, making life multiplanetary. Every time we're learning something from these flights that will get us there, that is progress.
Exactly. Starship is the first orbital launch vehicle engineered to be fully reusable and built for frequent flight and heavy payloads, just like today's commercial airliners.
I think there's one way before that.
Years of rapid development, testing, iteration. We're trying to fly as frequently as possible, fix problems as they appear, and then fly again. It all started here at Starbase back with Starhopper. It was a small single Raptor prototype.
I think that was Raptor V1.
We turned it into a water tower eventually.
Except it's a methane tower.
It made its first low altitude hop back in 2019 here at Starbase. You could tell the pad, that's the pad that we were just looking at. It looks dramatically different now, two towers. But Starhopper delivered. It was able to prove that we could use that Raptor engine for controlled takeoff and landing.
And that is so wild to see that there on your screen was
They're going to be dropping it though. There won't be
a full-size vehicle. So from there, we moved to full-size test articles with increasingly complex test flights that reached progressively higher altitudes. And each test shaped the Starship that we see today on the pad a stronger, taller, and more refined vehicle.
That's right. All right, now let's go out there and meet it. Starship is made up of two parts. First, on the bottom, the Super Heavy booster, powered by 33 Raptor engines. Both Super Heavy and Ship are running on liquid methane and liquid oxygen.
This is V2.
That second stage, the Starship upper stage, is powered by 6 of those Raptor engines. 3 of them are optimized to sea level performance.
I should note, first of all, that they first wanted it to be 35 Raptor engines on the booster. Oh, we got a view right here. Right here, we got a view of the 33 engines, which was originally planned to be 35, and the 3 engines
the booster at 6 Raptor engines
over here
inside the ship. Those are what's going to power it to orbit. Now, that second stage is also what will one day carry cargo, payloads, people, everything that's going to space. It's also going to be responsible for in-space propellant transfer. That's where we're going to take 2 starships, meet them up in orbit. One will be able to transfer propellant to the other. That's a really critical capability for Starship to do all of these missions beyond low Earth orbit. That also unlocks our ability to send huge amounts of cargo, tremendous amounts of people to destinations.
I also should note that if they manage to pull off everything reusable in an effective way, this could be the world's cheapest and largest rocket.
Earlier, we are not attempting a booster catch today on Flight 9. Starship re-enters the Earth.
This is also because they are reusing the booster. They're reusing the booster, so that means basically they're not reusing the booster. So that means they're throwing it away, but landing it in the ocean. It'll still be cool, though.
The hot stage ring, that's a steel structure that really takes the brunt of those ship engines as they ignite, protecting the booster while the ship's still attached to it. That enables us to do hot staging. It's faster, more efficient, kind of shutting everything down and then reigniting. Right now, that hot stage it's single use. It detaches from the booster as it flies back, but in the future, it's going to be integrated right into the top. And then on top of all of that, there's all of the infrastructure that's built up around Starship.
What they're talking about right now is the hot stage separation ring. it's sort of like the vents that protect the booster, the top of the booster, from flames damaging it from the second half of the rocket. They're planning on throwing it away for this flight and like jettisoning it halfway through flight because it offsets the aerodynamics and makes it really unstable and raises its center of mass, making it less controllable and less efficient.
The orbital launch mount on there, that's responsible for routing all of the propellant to the booster ahead of flight. Underneath it, you've got flame deflectors, the water deluge system to disperse all of those forces. The single piece we just lifted in weighs about 1,060 metric tons, which if you're keeping score at home, that's the same weight as about 10 Millennium Falcons. It's heavy.
That's a lot of Millennium Falcons,
so
Dan.
Many.
We're also currently in work on Starship's
and by the way, the Falcon 9 is taller and heavier than the Millennium Falcon, which is their other reusable rocket, basically smaller jet fuel powered version of the Starship.
Still coming up. And we are still on track to lift off tonight at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. And right now it's time to say hi to Chris, who's over there repping the West Coast Ops today. How's it going, Chris?
Hey, Jesse and Dan, and welcome everyone to West Coast and Hawthorne, California. As you can see behind me, the crowd is gathering outside of our mission control room here in Hawthorne, and the excitement is really palpable as we continue to count down toward Starship's 9th flight test. Now, our mission control room here in Hawthorne usually serves as the mission control room for our Falcon and Dragon missions once they launch from Florida and California. Now, with Starship, all countdown and mission control operations actually use the same flight control team from the same location at Starbase, which you can see on your screen now. But as we develop a vehicle like Starship, we want as many experts watching over its various systems as we can. And that's what we use the mission control room here in Hawthorne for during Starship flight tests like today's. The folks in mission control, which you see now on your screen, are the responsible engineers for Starship's various systems. This includes things like booster systems, stage propellant, our ground stations, flight software, the loads, and the vehicle structures as well. And having this support gives the flight teams in Starbase immediate access to our engineers' knowledge, which is really, really important when we're making informed decisions very quickly in a test program like this. This setup has been great for Starship flight tests so far, as we've handled things like propellant temperature differences, as well as day of launch winds that can affect the loads placed on Starship.
I also should note that the methane, that is their booster or Starship fuel, it has a very low boiling temperature, so it has to be kept really, really cold, which is really hard.
Our 9th flight of Starship today. Every flight brings us a step closer to a future where Starship is flying multiple times a day, and I'm sure you all feel the same way down there in Texas, Dan and Jesse, but I can't wait to see Starship's launch today. How about you?
Yeah, can't wait to see it, Chris. As you can see, props loading on the vehicle is just a little under 2 miles away from us, and we're really excited.
I wonder how full it is.
Looking back real quick, so back in March, Starship's 8th flight test saw us catch the Super Heavy booster for the 3rd time ever. Another big step on that path to full and rapid reusability.
And they lost the ship.
The Starship upper stage did experience what we call a rapid, unscheduled disassembly.
This was probably due to the rattling of the engines causing a fire or disruption inside of the engine bay.
Ship's ascent burn, a hardware failure in one of its sea-level Raptor engines.
Or maybe it could be the vibrations of the engines meeting the resonant frequency of the Starship, causing it to destroy itself.
We saw on Flight 7, and the fixes that we put in place did work as expected, so this was a new issue on Flight 8. So welcome to iterative engineering.
That's right. Losing hardware is a potential outcome of any test program. That's why we're always prepared with safety measures in place and also ready to have boots on the ground to assist with anything like debris cleanup. We can coordinate with all the necessary parties, organizations, administrations,
45%
for safety
full
in advance and in an ongoing basis during our test campaigns to plan for as many possible outcomes. Definitely do want to say thank you, though, to the people of the Bahamas, the government of the Bahamas, who worked with us so closely since Flight 8.
We took full responsibility for the cleanup, and in doing so, we had people on the ground in the Bahamas within 12 hours to help with debris recovery. So all that said,
I thought all the debris burned up due to re-entry.
Top of mind. And we fly again today to get this current iteration of ship to space and back.
That's right. Putting hardware in a flight environment as frequently as possible, so you're seeing how things behave all together in the real world, then you're solving problems as they pop up. That's how SpaceX developed their very first rocket, Falcon 1. Same philosophy was used to develop Falcon 9.
Today, we're looking to get our first re-entry with the latest iteration of ship, while intentionally stressing
we have a nose view. As you can see, if you don't know about Starship that much, it has a much more shielded nose to protect from temperatures during re-entry.
Because of this test, we will not be attempting to catch and recover Super Heavy, which again is flying for its second time today. So
from Flight A, I think.
This booster will hold the title as the Super Heavy flight leader.
That's right. All right. Lot still ahead for today. Let's get into it real quick with this overview. As always, everything starts with a liftoff. 33 Raptor engines igniting. Super Heavy pushing itself and Starship into ascent over the Gulf. It's going to continue for about 2.5 minutes before we get to hot staging. Ship will ignite its engines. Booster
Coming
will
back.
Do its boost back burn and begin
its as you just saw.
Back for a hard
as you just saw, the hot staging ring was separated.
Its burn into space.
That was the water landing.
Will remain suborbital. We will be deploying a.
This is where the SpaceX Starship failed last time. It exploded due to engine vibrations or something.
Entries such as missing tiles, metallic tiles, loading the vehicle's flaps, and then ship will attempt a flip maneuver, and if all goes planned, we'll conclude the test with a soft water splashdown in the Indian Ocean. So that's what we have on the menu for Flight 9 today.
Whole lot.
Hopefully all goes right.
New lessons about Starship hardware, specifically the Raptor engines. And as we touched on earlier, the root cause was traced to a hardware failure in one of Starship's 3 center Raptor engines.
Yeah, just since that flight, we've done more than 100 long-duration Raptor tests at our facility in McGregor.
I saw some old Raptor footage from Flight 8 of an explosion on one of the engineer's monitors. I think this is an old Raptor engine.
Reload on some of the joints, essentially some additional torquing, a new nitrogen purge system for the engines themselves, and
I think they added that on Flight 8. Probably a little more armored.
After our first ever Super Heavy refurb campaign, we static fired with all 33 Raptor engines. This was a chance to see all the hardware operating together, and for this flight, our teams had an opportunity to make adjustments or hardware replacements for this first ever reflight of the Super Heavy booster.
And then it was ship's turn. We took it through several static fires.
We're at 20 minutes.
First, we did this short duration single engine burn to simulate an in-space
that looks like a lot of damage.
Raptor using those header tanks, those smaller tanks. Up in the nose cone. We also completed a longer duration 60-second burn with all 6 engines. It's where you're really putting the entire propulsion system that's going to be used for the ship's ascent into space through the paces.
This could be part of the reason why Flight 8 or 7 failed. Like the vibrations, they aren't being tested. They aren't being tested while the fuel levels are draining. So the resonant frequency isn't enough to shake the vehicle apart. But when it's in flight, it's draining its fuel and shooting it out the back. Newton's first, second third law of motion. Probably the fuel drain, and at a certain point when the fuel is drained enough, the engines were enough to shake the entire lighter vehicle apart.
Recall is the engine with a pie on the nozzle, and there you can see
they're also reusing that engine
there. It is a milestone, most definitely, but we do remain focused on getting to the point where no refurbishment is needed between any of the flights.
Yeah, that means we want to launch it.
With the vehicle the size of Starship, they'll need some refurbishment probably.
Go again. That is really what's key. That is what full and rapid reusability will look like.
Oh, copyright music. Probably. I have no idea which booster version this is. There's the booster, another booster, more boosters. Booster catch. Wish I didn't live stream this in Starship Flight 8. Did I even live stream this in Starship Flight 7 or 6? I definitely did Flight 6. I don't know about 7. And I don't know about 8. Starship stacking.
Booster launch mount.
I wish I can show the music. Falcon 9. Oh, this could be, that Falcon 9 could be the satellite Mark rover launched recently. SatGus, I think. Nope, still copyright music. Welding, still welding. Huh? That's Starship stacking. It's really hard to comprehend how big this is. Like, one time I went to Kennedy Space Center and I knew rockets were big, but when I went next to them, they were absolutely huge. And then when I see something like Starship on video, it's impossible to comprehend. And what's even more impossible is the booster trying to come back and land on the launch site.
That's right. Looking at our levels real quick, we're a little bit more than halfway full on fuel and LOX on the booster, over 80% full on the ship. Still have to fill those header tanks, but everything looking good. We're not tracking any issues on the range. As a reminder, we watch sea states, air, and land around the launch site here and also over in the Indian Ocean, where we're going to be doing our reentry. Not tracking any blockers to launch at the moment. Weather is gorgeous, has not been a concern all day for launch. We've been moving through all of our pre-flight checkouts pretty smoothly so far this morning.
Anything can go wrong. There are a million things that can go wrong, and only a few of those are right.
We're aligned, everything's ready to go. You can see
only a few of those are good.
We're getting pretty full. We started loading all of the propellants on board both ships about 45 minutes or so before launch. They kind of stagger where we start with ship and then move into booster. We're going to continue loading these propellants on board until just about 3 minutes before liftoff. We'll close out on the ship first and then on the booster. But bottom line, everything's looking great. Not tracking any vehicle issues, range issues, weather issues. We're looking really good right now for a launch at the top of our window right at 6:30
That's good news, sort of bad news.
Yeah, seeing the propellant loading is making
us
get it.
If they found something that was wrong, then they could fix it. But since they're not seeing there's anything wrong, maybe there's something that could be wrong, and they don't fix it because they never found out it was wrong.
It's return and catch more reliable. Now, another unique change in today's flight will be the addition of the first ever directional flip of the booster.
That's right. If you've followed previous flights and you kind of wondered to yourself, why does the direction of the booster flip seem random? Surprise, it's because it was. We've got a couple of views from previous flights where you'll see the booster kind of go in different directions, and it was really small differences in the thrust of those ship engines. As they started up, they would nudge the booster in an initial direction.
Oh, that's cool footage.
And so the booster would essentially sense that and then lean into it, and it'll react, the engines will gimbal, and then it'll continue the flip. That was the easiest option technically, but you do take some performance
Starship
since
computers
you're essentially
are smart.
setting aside propellant to accommodate every single
direction.
direction.
That's the best flip maneuver I've ever seen.
Exactly, but if we know which direction we're flipping, then we know how much propellant we will need and can instead use more of the propellant to burn longer during ascent, adding more velocity to ship and increasing how much payload it can ultimately deliver to space.
Yeah,
so they should use thrust differential.
Super heavy here. We're going to intentionally try to flip
probably
straight up,
so the booster can sense which way it should flip, and it'll flip the same way every time.
The fastest way is to just flip straight up and go into it. That's roughly what we did on Flight 5. It's the most direct way to get into that orientation for the boost back burn. What you don't want to do is when you flip all the way down like that. We did that on Flight 7. It takes you in a big loop, uses the most amount of prop, not efficient.
That's what I saw. I saw Flight 7. I remember. It was flipping so much.
Yeah, Exactly. That's called optimization.
That's right.
To accomplish this, we made some changes to the hot stage adapter, welding reinforced panels over the vents in the direction that we want the booster to go. So when the ship engines ignite, the thrust will push against the blocked vents, which means that the nudge will be in the direction that we planned for. And then when we go to the next generation of ship and booster, we plan to control the flip direction by fine-tuning.
Clogged vents could be the reason why flight 3 failed, but that's like a long time ago.
Today, we're not attempting a catch, so we're going to try and gather additional data that's going to improve performance on future boosters. We're also going to try and see how resilient we are to things like losing an engine during the landing burn. By sending the booster out to sea, we're able to do these higher risk tests without risking the launch pad. As you might have heard earlier, we're going to be doing what's called a higher angle of attack. Basically, instead of coming straight down,
that's going to be stressful. I remember on Flight 6, the angle of attack was so high that it almost melted and disintegrated while landing. I could see the ship bending while doing its belly flop into the ocean, and a chunk of it was missing, yet it still ignited its engines.
On those burns.
Yeah, exactly.
That was so cool.
Definite uncertainty in how well the booster's grid fins and structure will be able to control its flight when we get into higher angles. So don't be surprised if it isn't a smooth descent for the booster down to its splashdown point today. The most important objective...
The grid fins, even if they're not controlled, they'll still have the booster aimed retrograde the whole time, since the center of pressure is above the center of mass. Sort of the aerodynamic force of it going like 5,000 miles per hour, blazing through the atmosphere, will keep it aimed opposite the direction it's going, which will keep it safe probably the whole time.
3 center engines, and instead use an engine from the middle ring that's kind of right behind it. Those center engines are what we nominally use at the very last part of a landing burn, as you're just kind of fine-tuning the booster's path into those waiting chopstick arms. This is going to act as a real-world simulation of a pretty scary situation where engines are not starting at probably the worst possible time, but we're going to do this without risking the pad. And then, at the very end of the landing burn, we're going to cut one more engine off and go down to only those 2 center engines. The burn is...
I realize booster splashdowns are a lot faster for a good reason.
So we expect it to make a pretty hard splashdown today. So, in all, pretty eventful day for the booster.
And as many of you may know, water landings are actually uncommon for SpaceX. While other launch providers expend all of their boosters after flight,
they're the only launch provider that actually reuses their rocket. That's probably why they're the most successful rocket company, and a bunch of other reasons. But splashdowns aren't good for the rockets, and they won't even survive in there, and it's hard to get them from there, and expensive, and refurbish it.
Colleagues here in Hawthorne definitely agree with you. We can't wait to see the Super Heavy perform its second flight and see all of the work from our thousands of engineers and technicians in action today. Now, while this reuse milestone is incredibly important for Starship's development, Super Heavy boosters are not the only vehicles that we reuse here at SpaceX. We're big on reuse, and our Dragon fleet...
Like literally 600 boosters that they've reused, almost. I don't know if I'm even being right. Like 20 times more than the Space Shuttle has one time.
This month also marks a big milestone for SpaceX, our 5-year anniversary of human spaceflight. Now, NASA astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley got us started back on Demo 2, which was notable for being the first time since the retirement of the shuttle program in 2011 that people launched to orbit from U.S. soil. Now, in those 5...
Probably because Dragon is probably the safest crew capsule right now.
NASA and 6 commercial missions, including Polaris Dawn, with our first commercial spacewalk in history, and From 2 earlier this year, which became the first human spaceflight mission ever to explore Earth's polar regions. We've flown a total of 66 crew in those 5 years, and we are expecting that number to grow significantly in the coming years. Now, most recently on our From 2 mission, the crew offered unique glimpses into the orbital spaceflight experience. And this was honestly just so cool to see. Thank you to our Starlink teams for making everything with the From 2 crew shared possible. This honestly made me feel like I was right there with them in Dragon. They were living, they were working, they were relaxing, they were doing their experiments while also having fun. Basically, just being people and inviting us along for the ride. And that was really meaningful. being invited up there really showed how these are just the early days on the road to making life multiplanetary. And the vehicle that's going to make all of that happen is Starship. And Dan and Jesse, I don't know about you, but that is definitely a future I have wanted since I was a little kid, and I cannot wait to see us make it a reality.
Yeah, right there with you, Chris. It's the fact that we're getting close to that being reality, that the vehicle that's going to go is sitting on
And by the way, this rocket is loud. It's like probably over 200 decibels. I think the Saturn V rocket is louder since it's massive F1, world's most powerful rocket engines. But this is the most powerful rocket altogether.
Yeah, this will help prove that we can actually get to Mars with a focus on learning as much as possible while demonstrating what will be needed for Mars transit and landing. But before we can make life multiplanetary, we have to build the starships that will make this all possible.
That's right, and that's happening right here, Starbase, Texas, the gateway to Mars. This is where we're soon going to be launching up to 25 Starship launches per year
7
from here
minutes.
at Starbase. And the place is changing every single day. We've grown quite a bit just in the last couple of years. There's a couple hundred employees,
Starbase
their families
City.
living amongst actual rockets. We're in the process of expanding production and integration.
What's weird is that Starbase, I've seen that Starbase has decent air quality.
We're the first city in Cameron County in 30 years, and that's just going to help us scale more quickly, try to build out the best community possible for all the people that are building the future of humanity's place in space. Starbase, pretty easily one of the most inspiring, exciting, unique places to live and work on the planet. As usual, shameless plug, we're always hiring. Come help us build the gateway to Mars. Visit SpaceX.com/careers. You can see all of our openings.
And this is my first time in Starbase, and Dan, the Star Factory is a manufacturing engineer's dream. To be able to build a factory like this at such a large scale with such a large scale vehicle is so wild to me.
Uncomprehendibly large scale.
Home base. So let's check back in with Chris in Hawthorne.
Thanks, Jesse. Yeah, everything here in Hawthorne is looking good. The crowd is gathered, really excited to watch the hard work of all of their colleagues come
like me
here for Starship on its 9th flight test. Not tracking any issues. We are excited to watch Starship.
Good/bad news.
They make it halfway around the world and test a lot of those critical in-space maneuvers and operations that will be vital for the program's continued operation. So Dan and Jesse, we can't wait for liftoff.
Me neither.
Let's have a good flight today.
Thanks, Chris. Now, if you're just now joining us, where have you been? But we're glad that you're joining us now. We are at T-minus just under 6 minutes until liftoff of the 9th Starship test flight.
Under 6 minutes.
So far,
like
the
5 minutes and
range
45.
is looking good. All the airspace and trajectory area that we are going to be launching through is looking good for our test flight today. Weather has been great. It was a little rainy and windy this morning, but it cleared up. It looks beautiful here in Starbase, and propellant loading.
That's good for the aerodynamics, I guess.
All right, yeah, it is continuing. We're a little over 90% full
90%?
on our booster. We are pretty much full in the main tanks on ship, filling up those header tanks. We're going to continue loading prop for about 2 more minutes. Once we're done with that, you've got just under 11 million pounds of liquid propellant spread across those 2 stages. After we get through all of that prop load, our stage 0 will get ready. The ground systems will go through pushbacks, clearing all of those fluid feed lines back to the propellant farm, getting ready for launch. We did just see they did a flap wiggle check, so the final flap check on the ship.
We're
doing final alignments of the guidance, navigation, and control system, our thrust vector control, essentially our steering, checkouts of the flight safety system. So everything progressing right now.
I like how the thrust vector control or maneuvering system of the rocket is like just 5 inner gimbal engines. Makes it super precise. And if one shuts off, another one can come on.
We can hold there. We will only hold there if we're tracking an issue. We're not currently tracking anything that will hold us at T-minus 40 seconds. But if you've seen a Starship launch before, they can happen. We can push through them.
That's what happened in the last live stream.
Exactly. But when we do pass through T-minus 40 seconds. A number of events will occur in rapid succession. The ground spin and ignition systems come up to flight pressure. Ship goes to internal power, and then after that, the quick disconnect or QD arm lockout is removed in preparation for retraction just shortly after T-minus 0. And once we pass T-minus 40 seconds, we do still have the ability to recycle the count under certain conditions back to T-minus 40 seconds, and then hold there to assess what happened and see if we can proceed again back down to T0.
Yeah, there are a couple of things, kind of gates in that timeline that if we pass through that and we hit a hold, we'd have to scrub for the day. One pretty visual one will be if the water starts flowing for that deflector system that's underneath the launch mount. That happens right around T-minus 10 seconds. For flowing water, we can't turn it off after it starts, and if we hit a hold, we're scrubbed for the day. We would need to refill those water tanks. We would also at that point need to refill all of the propellant tanks. It's 11 million pounds of propellant. It's a whole lot. We can typically do that in about 24 hours, so we can always turn around to try again tomorrow. But we are coming up on 3 minutes away from liftoff. We should be hearing that we're closed out of prop load on the ship at this point. Booster coming up shortly.
I heard that noise. That's a good noise, I guess, I think.
Wow, the weather just looks amazing there with Starship on the launch pad.
Good.
Just about 2 minutes and 45 seconds from T0 with a lot of
You can almost notice the wind, the direction of the wind, with all that smoke and methane ventilation.
Last flight was on flight 7.
Another reason why the smoke is venting off is because if the methane that's super cooled inside of the rocket tanks evaporates, some of it evaporates, it can expand and blow up the entire rocket or overpressure the tanks. That's why they have to vent some off. They're basically losing propellant throughout the flight, but they're refilling it when it's on the launch pad. They're going to stop refueling like a few seconds before launch, which is efficient, but risky.
At our temperature of all of our propellant on board, that's usually what drives us to, if we've held too long, we have to stand down for the day. So we are expecting a hold at T-minus 40 seconds.
Huh?
Sounds like we're going to be doing some additional checkouts on the booster Raptor while we're at that T-minus 40 second mark. So we will expect to see the clock pause at T-minus 40. And then again, we've got a couple of minutes. They can work through the issues. If we're able to clear them, we can still launch today. If it's something that we can't, we can always stand down, turn around, recycle, fly again tomorrow.
Again, that's really important. This is what terminal count is exactly for, is to be checking the vehicle, monitoring the vehicle systems as it makes its way down to T0. And again, this gives us the ability to catch any
It's hard to believe that this is a drone view. How is it so smooth?
Or pause so that we can work through those issues and see if it's...
They probably have a really advanced, like a gimbal camera or something.
And as Dan mentioned, we will be holding it.
Which I don't know if they
about 20 seconds
probably
now.
Not.
Yeah, so we'll hold there, and they'll work through these final checkouts.
10 seconds before
sounds
the
like
hold.
just one of those Raptors on the first stage on Super Heavy.
Oh,
which,
we might have a problem.
As you said, we're reflying it for the first time. 29 of those 33 engines have already been used in a launch.
Hold.
One of which has already launched
twice.
The Pi engine?
And is getting ready for its third
time.
And you just heard our flight director for the day, Joe Sliker. He just shared that we are going to hold at this T-minus 40 second mark. Keep an eye on one of those Raptor engines on booster.
I wonder why they hold at T-minus 40 seconds specifically. It's awfully quiet. It's so quiet.
And if you're just now jumping in, we are holding still at T-minus 40 seconds. Watching one engine, waiting for temperatures to kind of get to a zone that we want them to on one of the engines on the booster, on the Super Heavy booster, getting ready for its second ever flight.
That one engine.
We'll just continue to hold. Again, we can hang out here for several minutes. We held for a while on the first attempt last time, and then cleared it, and then we triggered a different issue on the ground side.
Like 1 minute.
But again, this is exactly what it's for. This gives us the best chances at success.
And the clock is rolling.
There we go.
Imagine living next to the Starship launch.
T-minus 30. Let's listen in.
Okay.
Watch that first flight proven super heavy. Get ready to take off from Starbase.
See, the anti-held it. 17, 16, 15, 14, 12, 11, 10. What?
Delta 1, hit hold.
We did have a hold, and looks like the clock jumped back to T-minus 40 seconds.
So nervous.
All right, so we jumped out. I did not see the deflector go off. So hopefully we were right at around that T-minus 10-second mark.
And if
it's probably a steel pad, not a deflector.
Mark, we do have the ability to recycle, as we mentioned earlier, back to T-minus 40 seconds.
Hopefully they don't, but hopefully they do.
It looked like this time it was a ground side issue. We're taking a look at this real quick. So again, we're back at T-minus 40. We're gonna hold for a little bit.
So
we are still not scrubbed for the day. Give them a couple of minutes to work through this. Again, we can hang out at T-minus 40 for several minutes.
I was hoping
eventually
so
we
bad.
start looking at your bulk temperatures and all of your propellant on board the vehicle. We're not actively replenishing the propellant on board Super Heavy and Starship. And so you don't have essentially forever to hang out before things start to warm up. And you do want to make sure your temperature's in a really stable range for a healthy startup on Raptor engines. So
anything to make it not burst.
You need to hold here for a couple of minutes.
A couple of seconds, I hope.
What's launch without a little extra added excitement?
This is so... There's nothing more exciting than the launch. When it comes up on the launch.
All right, so cumulatively, we've held for a little over 3 minutes between the two holds. Again, this is a ground side issue on our tower. The techs are looking through the data right now to see if it's something that we can either work through or if it would cause us to have to stand down. So we're continuing to hang out with them.
They're probably gonna stand down.
Holding at T-minus 40.
They're not holding it for no reason.
If you're just joining us, we did initially hold at T-minus 40 seconds. We continued the count, but recycled before we got to T-minus 10 seconds.
It looks perfectly good.
At a hold at T-minus 40 seconds. Waiting for more information. The team is checking out to see if we can continue today.
We will continue today. Hopefully. Did they hold?
And we're continuing to hold here at T-minus 40 seconds.
Oh, they're still holding.
We've been holding for just about 5 minutes now.
No.
As the teams evaluate if we can continue to T0 for Flight 9.
We did it last time. They held last time. They held it to like 40 minutes.
All right, so it sounds like we're coming to a resolution. All right, so we are getting to a resolution. We're going to reset everything.
Please. Resolution is go for launch. Resolution is go for launch.
All right, so we're going to see the clock. It is now rolling.
Go for launch.
We saw an issue with that quick disconnect to the ship.
Let's go! Let's go!
There is a
Let's
chance
go!
that automation will kick us out again if we encounter
Let's
the
go.
same issue.
Let's go. We're going.
But for now, the clock is rolling. We'll see if we pass around that T-minus mark.
16, 15, 14, 13. What? Oh, 12, 11, 10, 9, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go! Let's go! Launch! Launch! We got extra views this time. Extra views! Extra views! This is so... No way! We got all engines! We are at exactly 1 kilometer. This is so loud. You can hear that clean audio of the exhaust breaking the speed of sound.
T-plus 40 seconds, it's one hell of a sight
so
from
cool.
here. We see it arcing
This
right
is
over top
so
of us.
cool.
We see 33
No way.
out of 33 Raptor engines lit on Super Heavy as it starts to ascend
33
skyward.
Raptor engines lit. World's record. One minute.
Coming up on maximum aerodynamic pressure, then only about
Maximum
a minute and a half
aerodynamic
until we
pressure.
Get into hot staging.
You can hear that rattling from the
Wow,
stainless
Dan,
steel.
That was incredible.
About to crumble itself, but it's not ever gonna crumble
we
itself.
Could feel the building shaking
Best
here. Feel
footage ever.
The vehicle's power.
The power.
Now we're just about a minute away from shutting down those engines on the
Let's look
booster.
at-
Again,
let's
this
do a ship
booster is
inspection.
flying for its second time
Let's see.
today.
Is there anything that's moving?
All
Anything
right, so
that's
hot
moving?
staging
Let's
coming
see.
up. A little
Last
under a
time
minute.
there's a flap. Nothing moving here. Nothing
We're going to
over
see
there.
all but the 3 center engines
Nothing
turn
over
off
there?
on the booster. So our version of Miko, most engines cut off.
It's
And then
gonna
just a few
happen
seconds
probably
later,
around 2
hoping to see
minutes.
6 engines ignite on ship to push it away.
And hot stage separation. When is it happening? Oh, it's spinning.
All right, hot staging about 30 seconds.
It's about to do a roll. It's going to a. It's no. It's going out of control. It's going out of control. It is so going out of control. It's spinning.
And definitely keep an eye on which way the booster flips. First ever directional flip we're going for today. Should flip straight up.
This is not. What? What's going on? This looks.
See those engines powering down?
Booster engine cut off.
Booster engine cut off. Yes, let's go.
Ignition.
Let's go. We got a
Stage
perfect,
separation.
perfect booster ignition.
Incredible
That
flip
is
by
so
Super Heavy
incredible.
Booster, and you can see those 6
So good.
engines, those 3 engines on the ship ignited.
Please survive, ship. This is where you
6 healthy
exploded.
Raptors running on ship.
Last
on
time,
its way to
please.
Space.
No,
Peek that
I
engine
see
view.
something.
Booster doing the boost back.
please.
How's it looking over there in Hawthorne, man?
Please.
It
Please.
is looking
Raptor chamber
abs-
pressure is
Please.
nominal.
It is looking absolutely
Chamber
incredible
pressure is
here in
nominal.
Hawthorne. As we said, 6 healthy engines on ship. We've got
Please.
13 out of 13 engines on the booster. Now down to those 3, which is what we expect in the
We're
final
down to
moments
3
of the
engines, so
boost back
everything looks
burn.
perfect.
Now, as a reminder, we are
Everything
not
looks
recovering the super
perfect.
heavy booster
This is
today. We
so
are
good.
instead going to do
Okay.
some
Shut down.
Shut
There
down.
we had a good shutdown of the boost back burn. Next up will be the
Yo.
jettison of that hot stage
Ship
ring.
avionics power and telemetry nominal.
Jettison.
Great call
Jettison.
out there that everything looking nominal aboard the super heavy vehicle, which
Please
is returning
don't
to Earth, and we're going to
abort.
be doing some
Don't abort.
experiments with it, including a higher
Don't
angle of attack
abort.
re-entry, as well as some engine tests as it gets closer
No.
to
Oh, good.
the
Oh, good.
Gulf. We are, again, because of these tests not
Please,
recovering it, we
this
are
is
sending it to the
so-
Gulf on purpose to do those tests. But again, you see the booster on the left-hand side of your screen. You see ship with 6 healthy engines continuing its ascent to its planned
Coming
suborbital
back.
trajectory. Everything going very well so far for Starship's 9th flight. Now,
And hopefully
4
that's
minutes,
how it goes
15
well for the
seconds
entire
in.
flight. Oh!
Great views
Fire!
from inside
Fire!
of the
Fire!
aft engine
Fire!
area of
Fire!
ship. They're looking
Please
at
don't
those
explode.
3 sea level and 3 Raptor engines on the right-hand
If
side
this
of your
explodes,
screen. The
we're
booster
gonna have
doing its LOX dump, that liquid oxygen dump. So because we don't need some of that liquid oxygen propellant in its tanks, we vent that propellant out to lessen the booster's mass as it comes in for its landing.
The entire thing
Just
looks good.
absolutely gorgeous views watching these 2 vehicles do their respective things in the skies over Texas here today. And Dan, we're approaching the 5-minute mark into the flight. Super Heavy is descending
booster
rapidly.
return! Booster
what can we expect
return!
here in the next few
Booster
minutes as it
return!
does its
Booster
accurate
return!
tests?
That is so cool.
Yeah, now as we had talked about, Super Heavy might not have a very smooth ride down. We're
Oh,
going to
no.
be putting it through this higher
Is that
angle
fire?
of attack. So we're kind of pitching it up a tiny bit, increasing drag. We've done this in wind tunnels. We've done this in computer
Nope,
modeling.
it's
It shows that
spinning.
sometimes the control isn't great, but only one way
Fire!
to really prove
I
it
just
out,
saw a
and that's to get
fire.
real-world data. So
I just
here
saw a
comes
fire.
Super Heavy. It should be igniting for its landing burn in just about 40 seconds from now.
We're expecting that
We're
fire.
going to relight 13
It's
engines,
coming back like
then bring
thunder.
that down
It's
to
coming
3
back like
engines,
thunder.
as we
It's
talked about
coming
earlier.
back
We
like
will be
thunder.
intentionally
Booster
shutting
FPS
down.
saved.
We will be
got-
shutting down one of those 3 center engines intentionally.
We got the thunder.
to push
Let's
the limits
just
of the Super Heavy booster.
go to the
Chamber
booster the
pressure's normal.
entirely. Sonic
And
boom.
continuing to see 6 healthy
like it.
engines on the ship, 3 sea level and 3 vacuum engines still ignited as the Super Heavy booster is making its way
Oh,
back down
oh.
to Earth.
We can see those grid fins doing some heavy work.
Booster landing startup.
Yep.
Ignited for our landing burn.
Landing burn. Where's the booster? Huh? Where's the booster footage?
It may have ended with that landing burn.
Yeah, the booster probably
Does
exploded.
look like we lost telemetry from the booster once we started into that landing burn. Did you see confirmation that the booster did demise?
Yeah, probably. I saw the.
So the booster's flight ending before it was able to get through landing burn, but again, we are not bringing that back. We're expecting it to make a
All
hard
I want
splashdown
right now,
in
the
Gulf.
entire flight, I just want a clean.
We were getting live data back.
I don't know
the
about
entire
smooth
time
re-entry.
through that high angle of attack flight, so that was something that was really vital for us to get during this reuse.
We're at 140. No,
First
we're not.
free flight of booster in the books.
146
All right, ship.
kilometers.
Has about 2 minutes left.
Okay.
In about 2 minutes, we expect all 6 Raptor engines to shut down. That will be SECO, basically second engine or second stage engine shut off. And these are some incredible views, Dan, from the aft end of the ship, watching as the engines stay ignited with the Earth in the background.
As always, the Starship avionics team, the techs.
Okay. We are about almost
I think we
in.
just heard the booster. But all right, we got about a minute left into this burn. All eyes definitely on ship.
All eyes
as we
on
get through
ship.
the final
Please,
stages
as long
into
as
its
you
ascent. We're
just
expecting it
survive.
to start to cut those
As you
engines
just
off
survive.
in
Are
about
you
45
serious?
seconds.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Terminal guidance.
I see a fire. I see a chip off. I see a chip off the engine. It's sort of chipped off.
All right, just about 30 seconds to go.
1, 2. I'll be counting 3,
We're in terminal
4,
guidance.
5, 6,
The final
7,
stages of this
8,
ascent burn.
9, 10, 11, 12.
We did see shutdown of the Raptor engines.
Okay.
We do stagger these, so we do the Raptors first. Those 3 have shut down successfully. Sea levels still running.
Sea levels. Sea level engine survive. I don't care about the booster. And shut off. Yes! 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 This is where we failed last time. This is where he failed last time.
Cut off the 3 most beautiful words in the English language.
And great call out that we had nominal insertion.
We got... It's spinning.
An incredible flight test so far today.
Yeah, but we do have some spin.
We reflew a super heavy booster for the very first time in 9 test flights. Ship is in its orbital trajectory. Again, it's going to remain suborbital for its mission today. But it ignited ignited all 6 of its engines and made it all the way through SECO just now.
It survived. The ship survived. This is where it exploded last time.
What a moment.
Incredible.
All right, but I mean, that's...
It looks like it's spinning a little.
Lots to come for the rest of this flight. Per usual, I need to collect
looks like
myself.
It's spinning a little.
Hey, Chris. How's it going over there in Hawthorne, man? How's everybody doing?
I think the elation and the excitement and the happiness at what we just saw achieved carried through across all of our sites. What an incredible view to see Starship back orbiting the Earth just under 11 minutes into our mission. Absolutely exciting to see all of this, and super pumped especially to see all of the team's hard work in action here today. As guaranteed, it has been an exciting evening so far for Starship's 9th test flight. We lifted off a little bit after 6:30 p.m. after a couple of holds that were triggered
like
at the T-minus 40-second mark, but we were able to clear those, 1 on the Raptor, 1 on the tower, and we were able to lift off successfully from Starbase. 33 out of 33 Raptor engines lit on the Super Heavy, all 6 engines lit on ship, bringing it to its planned suborbital trajectory around Earth. But as Dan said, we've got a lot still coming up in our flight sequence. So coming up at about T plus 18 minutes, 26 seconds, we'll have the first deployment of simulated Starlink satellites planned from Starship. That will be followed at about T plus 37 minutes and 49 seconds by the relight.
I used to be worried about the
is the new heat shield modifications to Starship, and that'll start with re-entry into Earth's atmosphere at about the T plus 45 minute mark, which should take about 18 minutes to complete. And now today's re-entry is going to test that heat shield like we said, specifically how Starship will hold up to 100 missing heat shield tiles on its thermal protection system. Now, we purposely took those 100 tiles off over very critical areas of the vehicle to be able to safely test on a flight like this suborbital trajectory into the Indian Ocean what flight in those areas if we were to lose the primary heat shield tile over Starship. So very critical test coming up. And then after that, we'll have the final descent where we will again be pushing Starship to its limits. We definitely pushed the booster to its limits to data, and we're going to be doing the exact same thing on that ship, seeing how the ship handles various flight conditions that we will need it to fly in as we look to one day soon bring ships back to Starbase for catch and reuse.
40 minutes of cruising right now.
While there are payload simulators on Starship for deployment today, as we will see in a few minutes, the primary data and the primary payload for today is the data. And today, just like with Starship's previous test flights, that data is coming to us courtesy of our Starlink network. In fact, it is from Starlink that you are seeing these wonderful views of ship in space right now. So, and I can't wait to see Starlink really provide those epic views and that data transmission during reentry, which is very, very critical to getting that data during reentry. So, Dan and Jesse, it's been an exciting day so far. There's more to come as we get ready for Starship's first ever payload deploy. What can we expect next year in the next few minutes?
If you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe.
Thanks, Chris. Just going to reiterate, thank you to the Starlink team for these
styled
incredible
videos.
views
I'm looking
today.
forward to being better at editing.
In a few minutes, Starship will Starlink simulators.
I'm also looking forward to be better at editing.
The Starlink simulators.
My goal is like 1,000 subscribers.
They will passively re-enter the atmosphere, just like Starship. With tests like these, we can see how Starship's payload deploy systems work in flight while ensuring satellites pose no
The light from
safety
the sun is probably
or for other
reflecting off of the thing.
Now, this also ensures that any parts of these simulator Starlink satellites that do survive re-entry splash down harmlessly in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
And then before we get there, though, we're going to have
I'm
to
hoping
open
they
up
deploy
that
this.
payload
I forgot they're deploying
door.
the satellites. They are
So we've
deploying
only
the
ever done that
satellites.
one time before. Pretty
They
sure
are
it was
deploying the
flight 3.
satellites.
Someone on the internet, please check me. But that was the only time we ever opened it. And we've had Starlink simulators on the last 2 flights, but we haven't gotten to this moment yet where we're able to open up the payload door and start deploying these. It's going to be
Open the payload
pretty
door.
cool.
That sounds
We've
so
got
historical.
them stacked inside of the Starship payload bay, and we'll have potentially a couple of views. You saw one camera pop up.
We
There
have.
we go.
We have camera
Look
footage.
inside of the payload
Camera
bay of
footage.
Starship. You can see them
Camera
stacked down in the middle of your
footage.
view. There's kind of 4 on either side, so they're sandwiched on top of each other, a stack of 4 right behind each other. And then we're going
This is
to
so
pop
cool.
the door open. It's on the right side of your screen, so we'll see that open up and then start firing those Starlink simulators out into space.
We are expecting the payload door to open in a little over a minute from now.
Okay, so that
And
means
then once
15,
that payload
16
door
minutes
is open,
and
about
6
a couple
seconds.
minutes later is when we will start dispensing
15 minutes and
Starlink
like 30
simulators.
That's a
seconds.
What a
view
great
right
view.
at the bottom of the stack. So should be able to see them
Bunch
kind
of
of firing out from right there.
Stuff
So
flying
really
in
cool.
there.
And eventually these are going to carry dozens of the next generation of Starlink
This
satellites
is
into
like
space, and
this
those
is
are gonna
Starship is basically
enable
like
some
an
truly
entire
insane things in terms of
build,
speeds from
like
space,
the Empire.
and
Take
what
the
we're
Empire
able to-
State Building,
we're able to
launch
do.
it in a rocket, and then make it hold an
Starlink's
entire.
been really great for Starship,
make
obviously.
the entire Empire State
Getting live
Building.
video back is really cool.
No, like
but
make a
just the
giant.
amount of
Put a
high-speed telemetry, everything
skyscraper
we're
in
able to get
space.
back isn't
Put a skyscraper in space. Fill it with a bunch of robots each floor, and then put a heat shield and make it come back at the Earth like 20,000 miles per hour. No, 18,000 miles per hour probably.
well in excess of 100 megabits per second of downlink, and a lot of that gets
Gonna
eaten up by
deploy in
video.
a
We've
few
got
seconds.
dozens of cameras across Starship. We added several more for this flight. You saw a couple of those as we have essentially 360 degrees. Oh. Open the pod bay door, Hal.
Open it. Open it. Open it. This is.
Now we are
is-
expecting the payload door to open any moment now, so we're watching out for that. Again, you're looking at the inside of Starship as it's
Please open.
suborbital.
Well, we heard the door open was in progress. It was unable to actuate all the way open, so they are going to close it back up. Hal told me no. Said, I'm sorry, Dan. Can't do that. Looks like we won't get the door open today.
Okay.
But that's okay.
This is why we
obviously
test.
a test we want to be able to
Yep.
do before we're deploying full-on Starlinks. But the real focus for this, now that we are in space, is getting to that reentry. That is the most critical phase of Starship that we still have to prove out.
If the cargo bay isn't fully open, if the cargo bay is
All right, well, so it does look like we're not going to be able to deploy Starlinks today, but we should have pretty frequent views from Starship.
Oh.
They might cut in and out every once in a while, but should be pretty regular.
you might have reentry.
We are
You
in
might have
darkness
reentry.
right now, so might be a lot of black, but the cool part is when we get to reentry, it's going to be daytime.
Yes, and we did that on purpose so that we can get some live daytime views
Like
as
Starship
ship
Flight
is
6.
returning back to Earth.
All right, so we are going to take a break. Enjoy these views as we get them. Enjoy the tunes. We'll be back in a couple of minutes when we get ready to relight one of those Raptor engines on orbit. See you soon.
I can't show the tunes, probably. Hold on. And yes, it is copyright. They're probably gonna be playing the music for we are probably at T plus. So at T plus probably like 40 minutes. T plus. The flight simulation says that so super heavy starship so it's gonna be flying at it's gonna be landing in the I have to figure out where the Starship flight will be landing. It will be landing. I have to wait for the simulation to load. It's gonna be landing probably halfway around the world. It's gonna be landing somewhere. It's probably gonna be 20, probably T plus 40 or 30 minutes till we start re-entering, or we are at 189 kilometers. So if we're at a speed of the average orbiting, a little bit below the average orbiting speed, like 2,000 kilometers below, it's probably gonna be, I have to look at how fast we are decelerating. Since we're at 189 kilometers, we're probably gonna be landing in 10 to 15 minutes.
Are you gonna continue the stream, or are you gonna end it up?
At around I have to wait for re-entry. This is the part where Starship failed the last two flight tests, and it's gonna be a traumatic one.
So what are you gonna do in the meantime? Are you gonna talk to them, or?
Is it a live stream?
Yeah.
Wait, what? I'm talking right now.
Yeah.
We are in between. Oh, I found a good way to calculate where we are, how long it's gonna take. So we are in between South America and Africa. In South America and Africa, I have to rotate the globe. Africa and South America. So Africa would be right here. It's landing soon, probably in like 10 minutes. I did notice that the ship was spinning around like I noticed that the ship was spinning around a little. Like, when the ship was spinning around, it was rotating. It was doing some type of roll maneuver. So, like, either it's an error or just to stabilize itself. But the thing is, the Starship, as it was going this way, it was also, the base of it was starting to move a little bit. It's spinning a little bit. Huh? Let's see. Oh. Okay, we're live. Yep, T plus 25. We're descending. That's good. That means we're going to be coming down very fast. And that essentially the gravity of the Earth is going to speed us up, and then it's just going to slow us down. I wish it would be cool if they showed, is there a way to replay all this? Oh, okay. Back. I have to find the footage. Back at around right there. You could see right here was on fire and chipped a little. This part was chipped too. There's a slight fire. It's hard to see in the vacuum of space because there's no molecules in the atmosphere to react with. If you zoom in right here, you can see that it's spinning a little bit. And the gas thrusters are like the white stuff is like reacting to the entire thing. It's reacting. There's not enough particles in the atmosphere to react with. Should I? No, I shouldn't. Looking at the trajectory of the Super Heavy booster, looking at the playback speed, I'm trying to look at the trajectory of the Super Heavy booster to see where it's supposed to land. Oh, I think I found the trajectory. It's supposed to launch, come up, stage separation, and then come down and glide. I found a difference in so the Super Heavy, when it comes down, it is gliding, it's gliding down, and then the air pressure, when it turns and begins doing its aerodynamic twisting, then the aerodynamic pressures up on the side of the tanks, and that G-force damaging the entire fuel tanks and all the fuel tanks, and the clouds should be messing up the booster. It looked a little weird when I first saw it come back. I wonder if we have any music. Replacement music that I could play. I can replay. Hold on, guys. Odie. I could be, oh, we got some views. We got some views right here. We got some cool views. Let's see. Looks like this could be, we got glitched out. Oh! How far are we? I think we're spinning. We're spinning. We're starting to glitch out a tiny bit here. We are glitching out. Oh, it's showing us telemetry data. Let's see. Time is Starship supposed to splash down in flight 9. Okay. It is in T plus. It's gonna be back T plus. I don't think they show us when Starship is supposed to be being splashed down. I'm guessing hopefully soon. But still. Still. Just playing this music while gliding through the atmosphere. The upper, way upper atmosphere. This thing looks so smooth, yet so weird. I don't know what's happening. It looks still, so the Starship booster looks still, so I should check. Hmm. It looks like we're descending fast. Looks like we're coming pretty close. We're descending pretty fast. Oh, okay, we're going really, wait, how high are we? And how, did we descend or ascend? Oh, okay.
On the ship. If you've been following along, we have essentially lost attitude control on the ship at this point. It is suborbital, so it's still headed to the exact same trajectory as before. We were not able to get that payload door open and deploy those nose cones.
Hold
We've
on.
been dealing All right, so 36 minutes, 15 seconds into today's flight tests. You're seeing some flat movement here on the ship. If you've been following along, we have essentially lost attitude control on the ship at this point. It is of that Raptor engine while we're in space. We are going to still proceed with entry, but as we are not able to control the attitude of the ship, as we get into entry, it will enter in whatever orientation it is in at the time, which does not bode well for the ship's heat shield, as we're not going to be essentially aligned the way that we want to do for reentry. So it is definitely coming down. It is definitely heading to the Indian Ocean, but our chances of making it all the way down are
very low,
pretty slim. So we'll still get as much data as we can. We're still getting live telemetry, live views from Starlink the entire time, and we'll continue to stick with ship as it continues on. We are about 10 minutes away or so until we start getting into entry, and the light will start to pick up as we cross the Indian Ocean, and we'll start to see a little bit more daylight, and we'll, as always, as long as we maintain that comm link, get some plasma on the way in and start to bring the Starship back through the Earth's atmosphere. So that coming up in about 10 minutes or so. So we'll check back in with everybody in a little bit.
Oh, nope. Definitely coming in fast. We are going so fast down. A 116 kilometers. We're 115 kilometers. We are descending so fast. A 114. We're descending too fast. 113. I can pretty much predict 12 when it is going to go. A 110. Okay, we're going too fast. Oh. Okay, hold on. Okay, the view of reentry is starting to get insane. Let's put on some. Okay, this is starting to get really Okay. Oh, we're in the correct orientation. 103. Oh, this is cool orientation. Glitching out. Yep.
Test, you're seeing
the
light show start as Starship is getting closer to its reentry. If you're just tuning in, we were able to successfully make it to orbit. Run into a couple of issues as we've coasted to our entry point over the Indian Ocean.
We're going to expect
point,
some serious G-forces.
We had lost attitude control of the ship and entered into a spin. The team made the call to do what's called passivate the vehicle, so we're essentially venting all of the remaining propellant overboard, and it's going to make an uncontrolled reentry. Important to note, this is a contingency that is planned for, and we clear the zones in the Indian Ocean where these entries could take place. So we're not going to come down exactly where we would have had nothing happened, but we do clear a tremendous amount of space out in the Indian Ocean in the event that we run into this. We understand that there are always risks, essentially, with these flight tests, with the hardware, but we don't really accept any compromise when it comes to protecting people.
And it is one thing to note is we will actually still re-enter in our planned airspace zone, which is good. That is exactly what we planned for. You know, we do plan for if something does go a little bit off nominal, that we have enough airspace cleared out for situations just like this.
Yeah, re-entry is still just that really critical phase that we need to try and gather as much data, as much information as possible. Is a fully reusable heat shield has never been flown before. History of space flight, and that's something that Starship still has to crack. And so we had a whole range of experiments on this one at this point, and we just started to lose some of our cameras. So it's very possible that we'll start to lose contact with Starship a lot sooner than we would have if it was a nominal reentry. So we are expecting it to break up essentially
Their
on its
cameras are
re-entry over
probably
the Indian
gonna
Ocean. So
survive their
not
entry
able to do a
as
lot of
long as
our
the engine
on-orbit
bay is
objectives today,
not
but
exposed.
just the fact that we, you know, got it into space was just a really big moment for a lot of the team.
Yeah, and another thing to note is that Super Heavy did fly for its second flight today. It first flew on Flight 7, and it made it all the way to our shutdown of all the engines and
That's
stage
probably why
separation,
it
getting
exploded.
ship into its suborbital trajectory today. It did ignite its 13 engines, but it did demise at that point. We did plan to fly it back down to Earth at a
like
higher angle of
33.
attack, and we do expect it to stress the vehicle a lot more than what we've seen previously. So it's not
like it did in
unexpected
Flight
that
6.
we did lose the booster before we got to the actual landing.
Yeah. So we're gonna continue to hang out and see if we get any updates on ship. It does look like we might be getting some video back soon.
Video.
There we go.
Oh!
So this is a view essentially on the top part of Starship. You're looking up at the payload bay and towards the nose cone. So views are going to be a little bit scarce potentially, as again we are in essentially a tumble. We had lost that attitude control.
I wonder which view
so
this
Starlink,
is from.
when it's able to connect, able to feed this down. We are at the phase where we would expect entry to start within the next minute or so. So we are entering uncontrolled, but again, we're entering into an airspace and a sea space that is cleared and monitored in advance of launch and before we get to this phase.
And with the views that we are able to see, you are seeing a lot of that plasma build up. During re-entry, we do expect the vehicle to see about 1400 degrees Celsius, and there you can see the flap
is breaking up.
Feeling that temperature there, a little bit melting away. But as we expected with the spinning of the vehicle, we are no longer controlling the attitude of the vehicle. So this is now, at this point in the test flight, it is expected to see it begin to demise a little bit on its way back down to Earth.
Yeah, and so we'll stick with it for as long as we're kind of getting any reach back from the ship as it starts to make this re-entry. But yeah, so it's re-entering actively right now. And again, we did do what's called passivation. So you essentially vent all of your excess propellant overboard before you hit the atmosphere.
So there's no chance they're going to land.
That's a safety measure we can take on the ship while you still have contact with it. So that was done. It's now coming down in the predetermined hazard area that was cleared ahead of flight. Not controlled, so we're not going to get all of that re-entry data that we're still really looking forward to. This is kind of a new generation of ship. It has different flaps, improved heat shield, a whole lot of things that we're really trying to really put through the ringer.
You know what could be like a problem? It could be the nitrogen purge system and the thrusters constantly firing. And there's a problem with like the spin of the ship and the booster. They should have like gimbals that control the roll of the entire rocket before it stage separates, and like more advanced maneuvering system, and an automatically controlling re-entry or something. Oh, unpause. Oh. What? Trying to get some audio back.
If you're just now joining us, we did have an on-time liftoff from Starbase Texas at 6:30 p.m. Central Time of the Flight 9 vehicle. We did have some incredibly stressing objectives today. The Super Heavy booster flew for its second flight. It first flew on Flight 9 and made its way to take ship all the way up to stage separation, doing its first second flight ever, which is pretty incredible. We did lose the booster on the way back down, as we did fly it back down at a higher angle of attack. So as expected, we did have it demise on the way back down.
Yeah, we were able to get all the way to that landing burn, though. So we made it through that higher angle of attack.
Yeah,
so a lot of great data that's going to help us improve those future booster flights.
Yeah, we did do the directional flip, and it worked.
Yep.
It was actually
Flipped
a great
right
view
direction.
that we saw. And then ship continued 6 healthy Raptor engines in the beginning of its flight, making it all the way to Seco and coasting for quite a while. We made it to the expected time that we would open up the payload link satellites.
Yeah, we ran into a couple of issues once ship got there, but I can tell you it was a pretty crazy moment for a lot of the people that were standing here for ship to make it there. It's been a couple of flights, but it was really exciting to see. Ran into some issues on orbit. We weren't able to deploy the Starlinks. We eventually lost attitude control, dealing with some propellant links inside of the ship. And we did lose attitude control. And just to confirm, we did lose contact with the ship officially a couple of minutes ago. So that brings an end to the 9th flight test. So still a lot of work to do, but really big moment. Chris,
I think they ended
how's everybody doing over there in Hawthorne? What's the vibes, man?
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's a test program, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to learn, and that was definitely the vibe and the atmosphere here at Hawthorne. Would have been great to see ship get all the way through its objectives today, but with all of that data that came down through the Starlink system, we're definitely going to learn it, and we're definitely going to fix that and push forward. Also, great to see the responsible engineers here in mission control, talking with the flight control teams in Starbase. We talked about how it's great having that expert knowledge on console to be able to go to at a moment's notice, and that really helped us make the right decisions in orbit today when we decided to passivate the vehicle. So we will be here looking forward to Flight 10 and some success on future flights.
All right, well, obviously congratulations to everybody that poured so much time, effort into getting this ship, this rocket off the pad.
So I guess this is the end of Starship
The last
Flight 9.
2 months have been an absolute gauntlet for a lot of people, and we're continuing to learn more about this ship, about this rocket. We are trying to do something that is impossibly hard, and it's not always going to, you're not going to reach it in a straight line. We've said there's going to be bumps, there's going to be turns, but seeing that ship in space today was a hell of a moment for us. So congratulations to every single person who put time, effort, sweat, anything into that rocket.
Yeah, this is exactly the SpaceX way. We're going to learn, iterate, and iterate over and over again until we figure it out. So thank you to everybody for tuning in. Thank you for the fine people of Cameron County, including the residents of the newest city of Starbase, as well as the Coast Guard, Federal Aviation Administration, Government of Mexico, as well as the Australian Space Agency.
All right, now, this is not the end. We're going to have a whole bunch of cool liftoff stuff, so be sure to follow us on X at SpaceX for more, and we will see you back here for Flight 10. Thanks for tuning in.
I guess this is the end. Oh! So, I guess this is the end of the live stream. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure